In this video, I will teach you how to pass data science interview questions. Before we get into the interview questions, first of all, what is data science? Data science is a field of study that combines domain expertise, programming skills, and knowledge of mathematics and statistics to extract meaningful insights from data. Data science interview questions can be about statistics, probability, machine learning, data visualization along with behavioral questions. This video will cover a list of data interview questions and answers to tough data science interview questions. These will prepare you on how to stand out during your interview.
What are recommender systems? A subclass of information filtering systems that are meant to predict the preferences or ratings that a user would give to a product. Recommender systems are widely used in movies, news, research articles, products, etc. What is cross-validation? Cross-validation is essentially a technique used to assess how well a model performs on a new independent dataset. The simplest example of cross-validation is when you split your data into two groups, training data and testing data, where you use the training data to build the model and the testing data to test the model. What is the difference between supervised learning and unsupervised learning? Supervised learning involves learning a function that maps an input to an output based on example input-output pairs. For example, if I had a dataset with two variables, age, input, and growth, output, I could implement a supervised learning model to predict the growth of a person based on their age. Unsupervised learning is used to draw inferences and find patterns from input data without references to labeled outcomes. A common use of unsupervised learning is grouping customers by purchasing behavior to find target markets. Why does data cleaning play a vital role in the analysis? Cleaning data from multiple sources to transform it into a format that data analysts or data increases. The time taken to clean the data increases exponentially due to the number of sources and the volume of data generated in these sources. It might take up to 80% of the time for just cleaning data, making it a critical part of the analysis task. What do you understand by the term normal distribution? Data is usually distributed in different ways with a bias to the left or to the right, or it can all be jumbled up. However, there are chances that data is distributed around a central value without any bias to the left or right and reaches normal distribution in the form of a bell-shaped curve. The random variables are distributed in the form of a symmetrical bell-shaped curve. What is linear regression? Linear regression can be defined as a statistician technique where the score of a variable y is predicted from the score of a second variable x, where x is known as the predictor variable and y as the criterion variable. What are interpolation and extrapolation? Interpolation can be defined as estimating a value from two known values from a list of values, while extrapolation is approximating a value by extending a known set of values or facts. What is power analysis? Power analysis is an experimental design technique for determining the effect of a given sample size. Power analysis is normally conducted before the data collection. What is collaborative filtering? It is the process of filtering used by most of the recommender systems to find patterns or information by collaborating viewpoints, various data sources, and multiple agents. What is the difference between cluster and systematic sampling? Cluster sampling is a technique used when it becomes difficult to study the target population spread across a wide area and simple random sampling cannot be applied. A cluster sample is a probability sample where each sampling unit is a collection or cluster of elements. Systematic sampling is a statistical technique where elements are selected from an ordered sampling frame. In systematic sampling, the list is progressed in a circular manner, so once you reach the end of the list, it progresses from the top again. The best example of systematic sampling is the equal probability method. Are expected value and mean value different? They are not different, but the terms are used in different contexts. Mean is generally referred to when talking about the probability distribution of sample population, whereas expected value is generally referred to in a random variable context. What is a decision tree? Decision tree is an algorithm used to make decisions. It is like a tree-like model of decisions and their possible consequences, including chance event outcomes, resource costs, and utility. It is one way to display an algorithm that only contains conditional control statements. The last nodes of the decision tree, where a decision is made, are called the leaves of the tree. Decision trees are intuitive and easy to build but fall short when it comes to accuracy. What does p-value signify about the statistical data? P-value is used to determine the significance of results after a hypothesis test in statistics. P-value helps the readers to draw conclusions and is always between 0 and 1. P-value greater than 0.05 denotes weak evidence against the null hypothesis, which means the null hypothesis cannot be rejected. P-value less than or equal to 0.05 denotes strong evidence against the null hypothesis, which means the null hypothesis can be rejected. P-value equal to 0.05 is the marginal value indicating it is possible to go either way. What is overfitting? Overfitting is an error that occurs when the model fits the data too well, which results to high variance and low bias. When this occurs, the model will inaccurately predict new data points even though it has high accuracy on the data. What is an eigenvalue and eigenvector? Eigenvectors are used for understanding linear transformations. In data analysis, we usually calculate the eigenvectors for a correlation or covariance matrix. Eigenvectors are the directions along which a particular linear transformation acts by flipping, compressing, or stretching. Eigenvalue can be referred to as the strength of the transformation in the direction of the eigenvector or the factor by which the compression occurs. What is NLP? NLP stands for Natural Language Processing. It is a branch of artificial intelligence that gives machines the ability to read and understand human languages. What is machine learning? Machine learning can be defined as the subset of artificial intelligence based on the idea that systems can learn from data, identify patterns and make decisions with minimal human intervention. Examples of machine learning are image recognition, speech recognition, medical diagnosis, statistical arbitrage, etc. What is the difference between long and wide format data? The long format is very close to the tidy format. It typically makes the data easy to store and allows easy transformations to other types. Wide format is useful when looking at multiple lines or series on a graph, or when making tables for quick comparison. What is correlation and covariance in statistics? Correlation and covariance are two concepts in mathematics which are widely used in statistics. These two approaches are similar but not the same. Correlation is the best technique used for estimating and measuring the quantitative relationship between two variables. It measures how strongly two variables are related. Covariance is used to describe the systematic relationship between a pair of random variables, wherein change in one variable inverse by a corresponding change in another variable. What is A/B testing? A/B testing is a hypothesis testing for a randomized experiment with two variants A and B. A/B testing is a way to compare two versions of a single variable, typically by testing a subject's response to variant A against variant B, and determining which of the two variants is more effective. It can be used to test everything from website copy to sales emails to search ads. What is regularization? Regularization is a process used to prevent overfitting by adding tuning parameter to a model to induce smoothness, which often done by adding a constant multiple to an existing weight vector. The lasso, L1, or ridge, L2, is often the constant. The model predictions should then minimize the loss function calculated on the regularized training set. What is the law of large numbers? The law of large number is a theorem that describes the result of performing the same experiment a large number of times. The average of the results of the trials must be close to the expected value. The law of large number is important because it guarantees stable long-term results for the average of some random events. What are confounding variables? Confounding is a variable that influences both the dependent and independent variables. For example, if you are researching whether a lack of exercise leads to weight gain, where lack of exercise equals independent variable, weight gain equals dependent variable. Note, a confounding variable here would be any other variable that affects both of these variables, such as the age of the subject. What is the differences between univariate, bivariate and multivariate analysis? Univariate analysis is the simplest form of data analysis where the data being analyzed contains only one variable. Since it's a single variable, it doesn't deal with causes or relationships. The main purpose of univariate analysis is to describe the data and find patterns that exist within it. Bivariate analysis is used to find out if there is a relationship between two different variables. Multivariate analysis is the analysis of three or more variables. There are many ways to perform multivariate analysis depending on your goals. Some of these methods include additive tree, canonical correlation analysis, cluster analysis, etc. What is naive in a naive Bayes? Naive Bayes is called naive because it assumes that each input variable is independent. This is a strong assumption and unrealistic for real data. However, the technique is very effective on a large range of complex problems. What is pruning in decision tree? Pruning is a technique used in machine learning and search algorithms which reduces the size of decision trees by removing sections of the tree that provide little power to classify instances. The process of removing subnodes of a decision node is called pruning. What is logistic regression? Logistic regression is a statistical analysis method used to predict a data value based on prior observations of a data set. For example, a logistic regression could be used to predict whether a political candidate will win or lose an election or whether a high school student will be admitted to a particular college. What is linear regression? Linear regression is a type of predictive analysis, which examine two things which are: does a set of predictor variables do a good job in predicting an outcome, dependent variable? Which variables in particular are significant predictors of the outcome variable, and in what way do they, indicated by the magnitude and sign of the beta estimates, impact the outcome variable? These regression estimates are used to explain the relationship between one dependent variable and one or more independent variables. What is an outlier and how can outlier values be treated? An outlier is a piece of data that is an abnormal distance from other points. In other words, it's data that lies outside the other values in the set. All extreme values are not outlier values. The most common ways to treat outlier values are: to change the value and bring it within a range, to just remove the value. What is ensemble learning?
Ensemble learning is the process by which multiple models, such as classifiers or experts, are strategically generated and combined to solve a particular computational intelligence problem. Type of ensemble learning. Ensemble learning has many types, but a few are mentioned below. Bagging. Bagging is the type of ensemble technique in which a single training algorithm is used on different subsets of the training data, where the subset sampling is done with replacement, bootstrap. Once the algorithm is trained on all the subsets, then bagging predicts by aggregating all the predictions made by the algorithm on different subsets. Boosting. Boosting is an ensemble method for improving the model predictions of any given learning algorithm. The idea of boosting is to train weak learners sequentially, each trying to correct its predecessor. The weak learners are sequentially corrected by their predecessors and, in the process, they are converted into strong learners. What is a random forest? A random forest is a machine learning technique that's used to solve regression and classification problems. It utilizes ensemble learning, which is a technique that combines many classifiers to provide solutions to complex problems. A random forest algorithm consists of many decision trees. How do you work towards a random forest?
The steps involved are: build several decision trees on bootstrapped training samples of data. On each tree, each time a split is considered, a random sample of predictors is chosen as split candidates, out of all PP predictors. Rule of thumb: at each split M equals P, M equals P. Predictions, at the majority rule. What is a Box-Cox transformation? A box-Cox transformation is a transformation of non-normal dependent variables into a normal shape. Normality is an important assumption for many statistical techniques. This assumption allows us to construct confidence intervals and conduct hypothesis tests. How often should you update a machine learning algorithm? When you want the machine learning model to evolve as data streams through infrastructure when the underlying data source is changing, there is a case of non-stationarity. What do you mean by deep learning? Deep learning involves the process of taking large volumes of structured or unstructured data and using complex algorithms to train neural networks. It performs complex operations to extract hidden patterns and features. What is the difference between machine learning and deep learning? Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence focusing on a specific goal, setting computers up to be able to perform tasks without the need for explicit programming, while deep learning models introduce an extremely sophisticated approach to machine learning and are set to tackle these challenges because they've been specifically modeled after the human brain. What is gradient descent? Gradient descent is simply used in machine learning to find the values of a function's parameters, coefficients, that minimize a cost function as far as possible. What is reinforcement learning? Reinforcement learning is the training of machine learning models to make a sequence of decisions. The agent learns to achieve a goal in an uncertain, potentially complex environment. Reinforcement learning is inspired by the learning of human beings. It is based on the reward or penalty mechanism. What is the Boltzmann machine? A Boltzmann machine is a neural network of symmetrically connected nodes that make their own decisions whether to activate. Boltzmann machines can be strung together to make more sophisticated systems such as deep belief networks. What are hyperparameters? In machine learning, a hyperparameter is a parameter whose value is used to control the learning process. These parameters are tunable and can directly affect how well a model trains and the structure of the network. What is the difference between epoch, batch, and iteration in deep learning? Epoch. An epoch occurs when the full set of our training data is passed or forward propagated and then back propagated through our neural network. Batch size is the number of training samples we process at a particular time for training our model. In stochastic gradient, the decent batch size is fixed to 1. Iterations are the number of batches we need to complete one epoch. What is a multi-layer perceptron? An MLP consists of at least 3 layers of nodes, an input layer, a hidden layer, and an output layer. It has the same structure as a single-layer perceptron with one or more hidden layers. A single-layer perceptron can classify only linear separable classes with binary output, 0, 1, but MLP can classify nonlinear classes. A multi-layer perceptron, MLP, is a class of feed-forward artificial neural network, ANN. What is the role of the activation function? The activation function is used to introduce nonlinearity into the neural network, helping it to learn more complex function. Without which the neural network would be only able to learn linear function, which is a linear combination of its input data. An activation function is a function in an artificial neuron that delivers an output based on inputs. What is an autoencoder? Autoencoder is an unsupervised artificial neural network that learns how to efficiently compress and encode data, then learns how to reconstruct the data back from the reduced encoded representation to a representation that is as close to the original input as possible. What is dropout and batch normalization? Dropout is a technique of dropping out hidden and visible units of a network randomly to prevent overfitting of data. It doubles the number of iterations needed to converge the network. Batch normalization is the technique to improve the performance and stability of neural networks by normalizing the inputs in every layer so that they have mean output activation of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. How do you handle missing data? There are several ways to handle missing data. Delete rows with missing data. Mean/median/mode imputation. Assigning a unique value. Predicting the missing values. Using an algorithm that supports missing values, like random forests. The best method is to delete rows with missing data, as it ensures that no bias or variance is added or removed, and ultimately results in a robust and accurate model. However, this is only recommended if there's a lot of data to start with and the percentage of missing values is low. How do you control for biases? There are many things that you can do to control and minimize bias. Two common things include randomization, where participants are assigned by chance, and random sampling, sampling in which each member has an equal probability of being chosen. Define quality assurance and Six Sigma. Quality assurance, an activity or set of activities focused on maintaining a desired level of quality by minimizing mistakes and defects. Six Sigma, a specific type of quality assurance methodology composed of a set of techniques and tools for process improvement. A Six Sigma process is one in which 99.99966% of all outcomes are free of defects. When you sample, what biases are you inflicting? Potential biases include the following: sampling bias, a biased sample caused by non-random sampling; undercoverage bias, sampling too few observations; survivorship bias, error of overlooking observations that did not make it past a form of the selection process;